Hey guys, welcome to Project Metal Music's YouTube channel with your host Al Young, and we are here with the brilliant Caleb from Black Moon Cult. Welcome.
Thanks, man. Glad to be on.
Caleb, could you introduce yourself and what you do within the band?
Yep, I'm the lead vocalist, lead guitar player, and primary songwriter for Black Moon Cult. And then I run all the social media and stuff like that. So if you're ever we interacting over there on the socials, that's me too.
Cool. So let's dive into some questions. As a kid, what were you listening to?
Everything, a little bit of everything. I've gone through a little micro phase of just about every type of music there is. But what sparked it all, the very first band was the Beach Boys. And then along with the Beatles, my grandmom was a big, 60s psych rock fan and all the British invasion stuff. So that was playing around the house when I was a kid, and she'd sing Beatles songs to me when I was a baby. And then I heard Surfing USA in the Michael J. Fox movie Teen Wolf. There's a pretty iconic scene in that movie where that song plays. And as soon as I heard that, I was heard the surf guitar, and I was like, what is that? And from that moment on, I was pretty much obsessed with music.
Cool. Oh, that was Teen Wolf was what, 87, 88, something like that. It was just after the Back to the Future movie.
Yeah. And that's another one too, Back to the Future, that the opening scene in that movie where he's got the giant amp and he hits the power cord and it blows him back. I saw that, and that's so it was really Michael J. Fox that made me want to play guitar at first. And then I heard Guns N' Roses and AC/DC. And then my taste kind of progressively got heavier, got into Metallica. And then I heard Pantera when I was maybe 12 or 13 and just got absolutely obsessed with Pantera and Dimebag Darrell for a couple years. I was in a melodic death metal band with the drummer Jeff from Black Moon Cult. When we were teenagers, we grew up playing kind of inspired by At the Gates, Black Dahlia Murder, that kind of Swedish melodic death metal sound. And then after that band broke up, we kind of wanted to go back into our roots. And like I said, I grew up on the early 60s stuff, and then was a big fan of all the 70s hard rock. And we were big stoner rock fans. We loved Mastodon. And our first band together, it started almost just completely playing Mastodon covers. So we knew we kind of wanted to do something in the kind of progressive stoner rock kind of direction. And it's really, Black Moon Cult's just a mixture of all of those things that I just mentioned,
Cool. Now, you've mentioned that your grandmother was sort of a big influence on your sort of direction into your music journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was there anybody else who actually influenced you, or was it sort of after what your grandmother was playing around the house? Was it sort of a journey of self-discovery?
Yeah, each of my grandparents kind of influenced my taste a little bit differently. So I have three grandfathers altogether, one step grandfather, and my step grandfather was really into old outlaw country, but then he liked 70s rock, Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. My mom's dad was really into he turned me on to King Crimson and a lot of the progressive rock of the 70s, and he gave me my first Jimi Hendrix CD. And then my other grandpa was really into Rush and Led Zeppelin. So it was just kind of a mixture of all of my grandparents that grew up in the 60s and 70s, all just kind of giving me their suggestions. And then my mom was really into the grunge scene from the 90s. So I heard Alice in Chains and Guns N' Roses and Nirvana and all that stuff from her. So it was just a lot of good music around the house when I was growing up, and then self-discovery as well. but I had all of the essentials kind of handed to me. So then I just kind of, from then on my own, I kind of dove into the underworld of rock and more obscure bands in the stoner rock scene, like Dead Meadow and Earthless, Sleep. Those were bands that I kind of discovered on my own in high school. And then just, you know how the journey goes from there with the internet and everything. It's like everything's at your fingertips. And
yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, it's once like once you get to an age where you look at the magazines and get to
yeah,
the internet, and it's just like thinking, oh right, okay, oh you go sort of like, you do go down that rabbit hole
yeah,
where you,
exactly. Guitar World was still very prevalent when I was learning how to play, like Revolver magazine. Just all of the magazines were still on store shelves and everything, and now it's a little bit different. But I think kids have an easy time with the internet. It's even easier than the magazines. You know, you don't have to spend any money now to you can just type in any subgenre, and Google will give you a list of bands to go and check out, and then you can, dive in from there. So I'm still discovering new music all the time.
yeah, same here. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. It's even now. I've been doing this this work for about 10 years now, like over 10 years now, and I'm still finding new bands all the time.
Mm.
Yeah. So, out of all the bands that you've listened to over the years, who was your sort of like main influence to say, this band is so cool, or this musician is so cool, I want to do this, I want to get up on stage to actually become a musician?
That person was Slash for sure. I saw the music video, like VH1 Classic used to play. VH1 Classic was almost like replays of old MTV back in the day. So I kind of got the same experience that my mom had of watching like 80s music videos and stuff. I would tune on to VH1 Classic, and they would play old 80s music video, all the glam rock bands and stuff. And I saw the video for Sweet Child of Mine. And when Slash walks out and he plugs in the Les Paul and you can hear that cable buzzing, and then he just goes in, and then that solo, it was all just so mind blowing that like that was the moment where I was like, okay, I want to get a guitar. And my local Radio Shack, which is like an old electronics store, they'd sold like some cheap guitars and stuff, but they had a Les Paul copy there. So I saved up like all my birthday money and went in and got that Les Paul copy and a cheap little practice amp. And the following Christmas, I got a wah pedal, and I was just like absolute Slash. Like he was my idol starting off. And then from him, it went to Dimebag Darrell, and then just so on. And now it's so hard for me to zero in on one anymore because it's like different every day, you know?
Yeah, it's like when you start, like I said, once you go down that rabbit hole from that sort of like band that you just totally love, it sort of like branches out, and you do come up with like a lot of different good influences.
Right.
So, right, we have before we get to the questions from the chat. You did mention some bands earlier, but were you in any other bands prior to starting Black Moon? God, I can't speak. Black Moon Cult.
Oh yeah, I've been in a good handful of bands, multiple instruments, multiple genres. My very first middle school band, we were doing a lot of like Black Sabbath and Nirvana covers. That was called Tyrant, even though I think that's definitely taken by like an actual national band. And then after that, my first kind of stoner rock band was called Smoke Catcher, and that was the band where we just did like Mastodon covers, and we did like some High on Fire stuff. This was around like when The Hunter came out and Snakes for the Divine was out, so we were covering a lot of songs off of those two albums. And then that band evolved into my first kind of death metal project, Decapitus. And then when that broke up, it was so technical melodic death metal that I wanted to go the complete opposite direction. So when that band broke up, I was in a psychedelic punk band, kind of influenced by like Iggy and the Stooges and that kind of early stuff. And then King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard and the OCs were just coming out, and I heard those bands. So we were mixing a lot of like the weird psych stuff into the punk thing. And then after that, it was sort of a Hendrixy worship band that I was in for a while. And now it's Black Moon Cult. But, and then there was a punk band that I played drums for about a year and a half. And so I filled in on bass for a math rock band, just a little bit of everything.
Cool. We've got a question from Lisaboo, who's all the way up in Canada. She asks, how did you pick the band's name?
So this is a fun story. That Hendrixy kind of band that I was in, it was called the Caleb Reiser Blues Agenda. And it was like just a bluesy Hendrix solo project. I was just playing lots of guitar solos, and so very much a Jimi Hendrix experience kind of thing. And we did a show with a band called Blue Coupe, which features the Boucard brothers from Blue Oyster Cult, and then Dennis Dunaway from Alice Cooper Band. And they would tour out and play old Blue Oyster Cult and Alice Cooper songs. So my band got to open for them in Toledo, Ohio. And after our set, I was talking to Albert Boucard, the drummer from Blue Oyster Cult, and he told me, like, man, you guys are a kick-ass band, but like you need a name that suits your guys' sound more, like something like Black Sabbath or Blue Oyster Cult, like something darker like that. And then I went home after that show, and I was like, okay, Black Sabbath, Blue Oyster Cult. And I just kind of took one word from each and then just punched different words in the middle until we had something that sounded cool. And Black Moon Cult sounded cool enough to all of us. And I was wanting to get into kind of sci-fi mixed with some occult lyricism and stuff, and go a slightly heavier direction with the music around that time. So that was like the perfect kind of advice to initiate the transition from that kind of Hendrix worship into the more heavy psychedelic stuff we're doing now.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for that, Lisa. So what has the band been up to, especially over, I would say, the last 12 months or so?
The last year, we've been doing a lot of touring. We got signed to Black Doomba Records out of Atlanta, Georgia, and we started the promo campaign for our upcoming debut album, which is out this Friday, actually. It's called Ophidian Future, The Children of Yig. We recorded it about a year ago now. It's been done for a long time. We've just been waiting on vinyl and all that kind of stuff. We recorded it here in Ohio at a local studio, and then it was mixed and mastered by Tony Reed of Pentagram and Moss Generator. And then, yeah, the pre-sale for the vinyl started a couple weeks ago, and we've already sold about 150 copies of it. It's doing really well. We put out a few singles, few music videos. So just kind of doing like the debut album thing on that kind of promo cycle. And then we've been touring the Midwest and East Coast of the US for the past 3 years now. So we started just hitting the road as soon as we could gig, before we had an album out or any singles or anything. We just wanted to do it the old school way that bands did back in the 70s and 80s, where it's like you go out and you work it out on the road and you like fine tune your craft, and then you get signed, and then you put the music out. And we actually, a lot of bands these days, you finish your album and then you have to shop it around to different labels. after the album's done. But we were actually signed to Black Doomba Records well before the album was ever done. And that was just off of a live performance at Maryland Doomfest. And that is kind of unheard of in this day and age, that like most indie labels will not work with a band until they've actually heard the album they're going to be releasing. So it's been just kind of like the old school, grinding it out, doing it, you know, old school.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say some of the biggest bands out there today, such as Iron Maiden and other bands such they grind away for about 4, 5, 6 years before they even actually get a sniff of a record deal.
Right. And it changed. So the material changed so much over time playing it live like that. And then when we went in to record the album, we did it very much in a live way, to where the rhythm guitar, bass, and drums were all recorded like in one room. We had the amps isolated in like some ISO booths, but we recorded like no click tracks, just live in the room playing as a trio. Because there's some improvisational kind of trippy parts in our music, and we wanted that to be part of the record, and we wanted those natural tempo shifts. And then we used tube amps for everything, no plugins or digital effects, nothing affecting the vocal. We put some trippy effects on the vocals, but no auto tune or anything like that. We wanted to make just like an authentic kind of 70s style hard rock record where you capture everything with a mic and everything like amps blaring and loud drums, and it's noisy, but that's what makes it cool, you know?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. All right. Could you tell us a little bit about the album, like how many tracks there is on the album, that type of thing?
Yeah, there's 6 tracks. It's 44 minutes. So if you get the vinyl, it's like 22 minutes per side. And it's a loose concept album. The title track is sort of its own contained story. The other songs on the record are sort of interconnected in another sci-fi story. All of our songs kind of take place within a fictional universe. I'm very inspired by like H.P. Lovecraft, and a lot of like old sci-fi and stuff where there's a lot of world building and stuff. So all of our songs are very loosely connected, or they're all stories taking place in one world, and then I'll kind of cross-reference things, and it's stuff that no one would really pick up on unless they were like reading through the lyric sheets and stuff. But for us, it's like, you know, we love old 70s prog bands, and The Sword with Warped Riders was one of the most important albums for me when I was growing up, and that's a very kind of similar loose sci-fi concept album. So we wanted to tap into that a bit. So anyone that wants to do that, sit there and read the lyrics, you'll find some cool little Easter eggs, and you might be able to put some of the stories together. But yeah, it's 6 tracks, longer songs, you know.
Yeah, cool. Right, we got a question from Jessie581, our resident Aussie. She's the queen of the mutant roos and koalas. She asked, "What is your process of writing songs? What comes first? A bridge, a transition, a lyric? What comes first?"
So there's two halves to this writing process. There's the musical side, and then there's the lyrical side. We write all of our songs to sort of stand on their own as instrumental tracks, to where if there was no lyrics, it's an interesting enough listen to where, you know, we might even do that sometime where we like release some mixes where like the vocals are taken out and it's mixed a little different to lean into the instrumental vibes that we have going on. But a lot of times it'll start as a guitar riff at home, or a melody, or the bass player and myself both play synthesizer, and we put a lot of synths on the record. So sometimes it's messing with the synth part. The bass inspiration could come from any instrument. And then it's a lot of jamming with the group, and we can all improvise pretty proficiently. So that's where the music comes from, is like usually someone's bringing a riff to the table, we improvise, and then we just talk as a group about that kind of instrumental half. And then lyrically, I'll kind of listen to the instrumentals that we have and kind of picture like, what vibe does this give me? Like I usually know that it's going to be something sci-fi, a little occult inspired, something like that. So I'll listen to what's the music telling me it wants to be about. Or sometimes I'll have like a notebook of like, I'll think of a cool sci-fi concept story and kind of jot that down. And then the end process is always, because I'll write out a full story, like a short story, and then it's kind of, how do I turn this short story into a catchy lyric melody instead of lyrics that'll go with this instrumental that we've written. So it's a long process. We usually do. We don't write songs too quickly. Everyone is kind of a bit of a process, but we work on multiple things at a time.
Cool. Thank you for that, Jesse. Right. Got another question from Lisaboo, and she asks, do you have a favorite song of your band?
The title track of the album, Ophidian Future, is the song I'm most proud of. It's about 9 minutes long, and there's just so many cool transitions, and we worked in a lot of like kind of Middle Eastern and like world music influence, and there's like some raga sitar vibes mixed in, and then it's got some very weird like 13/8 time signatures. So like as a musician, that one's my favorite, just for what we were able to pull off in 9 minutes on that song. But then for like sentimental reasons, it would be Sunfish, which is kind of the ballad on the record. And that was one that I wrote for my brother when he was kind of going through a tough time. And a lot of people say that song resonates especially. So tie between Sunfish and Ophidian Future.
Cool. Thank you for that, Lisa. So, are you writing any new material to do like another EP or album or?
Yep. We're starting writing the second album. We just added a fourth member to the band. The first record we did as a trio, and we've been touring for all these years as a trio now. But after we got the mix and master back for this record, and like I had mentioned, we put synth all over it. So we were like, we need a synth player to kind of recreate the album live now. So we just added a guy on synth and theremin and some backing percussion and stuff. And that addition has like absolutely boosted our sound and what we're capable of doing. So we had some material that we were cooking up a few months ago, but then after we added the new member, we were like, let's reassess everything and kind of dive into some different material with it, because as a trio there was so much focus on like, we have to fill as much sound as possible. Like as a guitar player, I was very focused on like sounding huge and leaving no space, and just, we wanted to be the kind of trio that just sucks all the air out of the room. But with live keyboards and stuff, keyboards eat up so much of the mix that it allows myself and the bass player to kind of step back and let the music breathe, kind of develop a groove, and then I can, do some different types of guitar phrasing and stuff. So there'll definitely be a sonic progression for this second record of, now we can, put chord progressions behind my guitar solos, to where before it would only be single note riffs from the bass player. And, I'm a big Thin Lizzy fan, and like Wishbone Ash, any band that does like twin harmony guitars. But we've never really vibed with two guitar players in this band. So what we've been working on is kind of using like a Moog keyboard and having guitar harmonies going on between like a guitar and a Moog keyboard. So it's doing like a similar thing to that Thin Lizzy vibe, but it's a different sound altogether. It sounds more trippy, kind of like old prog or like Hawkwind or something like that. We're really into like space rock. So
cool. And now, have you sort of like got any sort of like merchandise, like such as t-shirts, stuff like that?
Oh yeah. We've got some new t-shirts. We're about to be hitting the west coast of the US for the first time. Denver, Colorado, down through the Southwest, and then up through California. And we've got some new t-shirts coming that we'll be sending a batch of them to our label. So you can order through the Black Doomba Records Bandcamp. You'll be able to find some shirts. And then the vinyl we just put out, that's what we're pushing really hard at the moment. We have 2 vinyl variants. There's one called Shattered Eden, which is a clear base with black and green splatter. And that seems to be the favorite right now. And then we have Cosmic Egg Yolk, which is a yellow base with a black splatter. Both look incredible in my opinion, and you can get both of those at the Black Doomba Records Bandcamp, or if you come out to shows, we have like rolling trays, lighters. We actually have a condom sponsorship from One Condom, and they make condom tins that have our band logo on them, and we just give those away for free. And then I think we sent some to the label, so if you order anything from the label, they'll probably send you like a free condom tin, stickers, you know.
Cool. Jesse 581 says yes, vinyl. She loves vinyl.
Oh yeah. It's great looking vinyl too. I'm so proud of the whole package we put together. The cover art was by Mike Stewart, who's the drummer in a band called Thunderbird Divine. They're also on Black Doomba Records. So I saw his band's album last year that they put out, Little Wars. The cover art on that was just amazing. So as soon as we signed on to the label, I was like, put me in contact with this drummer and I want to talk about it. And he cooked up the album art for us and just absolutely knocked it out of the park. It doesn't really look like anything too typical of the stoner rock genre, where it's a subgenre that it's my favorite subgenre of heavy rock, but it gets very cliche. So many bands get very cliche with the imagery and stuff like that. And the initial idea that we had for the cover art was kind of cliche. And then Mike threw this cover back at us and was like, maybe this isn't the vibe you're going for, but how about that? And then we saw it and we're like, this is, incredibly unique for the genre. And then the splatter variants match the cover art so well. And just the whole packaging and everything we couldn't be more proud of.
Cool. And you can people can get it from the record label's Bandcamp?
Yeah, Black Doomba Records on Bandcamp.
Cool. So if anybody's interested, please go over there and actually say, oh, I want that type of thing. Yeah, so we got a question from Jessie581, and she asks, any plans for touring abroad if you had money left?
Yeah, that's something we're actively working on. So we're doing the west coast of the US for the first time. Next week we'll actually be on the road. And then we're working on, we're getting our passports right now. We're going to be doing some Canadian dates next year. And then it's an absolute goal of ours that by 2027, we're in Europe. Like we're working on figuring it out, because over here in the States right now, live music is so tough. Everything's tough right now. Just the economy's absolutely screwed. And it's, it's a rough time over here for live music, and we love doing it. So that's why we do it. But then we have friends that go over to Europe and tell us how much better it is over there. And, I think Europe is so important in the history of heavy music, and say that Europe invented it, So I think that, Europe. It seems to, as an outsider, it seems that Europe has more respect for this culture's significance through their musical history and stuff, to where America's kind of brushed rock music to the side a little bit. So we have plans to come to Europe for sure, and we can't wait to do it. I can't hear you right now.
With my audio of this,
oh, there you are. I can hear you now.
Yeah, I was just saying that we got like a lot of like the British bands such as Black Sabbath and Jethro Tull and Led Zeppelin and Iron Maiden and that type of those types of bands who sort of like went down sort of like the dark, sort of like menacing, sort of like especially with Black Sabbath, where if you listen to some of the music, it's sort of like, especially where they are from Birmingham, sort of like heavy industry, and they're sort of like mashed that all together with like sort of like with the occult.
Right. Yeah, and I think that there's a couple comparable scenes over here in the U.S., like Detroit for sure. I'm only about an hour and a half from Detroit, and Detroit is like one of the cities in the U.S. that I'd like point to, and I'm like, this has a really amazing musical history. But and that's like, our sound is very much a mix of like, we love old kind of American proto-punk stuff like the Stooges and the MC5. And then we love the new wave of British heavy metal. Like, we love early Scorpions, like when Uli Jon Roth was in the band. We love early Iron Maiden. Like I said, Wishbone Ash, Thin Lizzy. We love the new wave of British heavy metal stuff. And then we love the desert rock scene from like, Southern California, Joshua Tree desert rock scene. Those are probably like the three kind of little niche sub-genres that influence us the most.
Cool. Yeah, you could delve into a lot of history where you can draw influences from.
Oh yeah.
So, what Jesse is hoping for is, would you head on over to Australia if you had the chance?
Absolutely, in a heartbeat. I want to go there just to visit, even if it wasn't the band going over there. I'd love to go to Australia. So if we ever had the chance to go over there, we'd absolutely jump on it.
Cool. Would you sort of like go to sort of like Japan, with like such as like I know Ozzy and Black Sabbath and Deep Purple and bands like that who went over, especially in the 70s and 80s. Would you sort of like go over there to like sort of like play in Japan?
Absolutely, we would. There's very few places in the world that we wouldn't go if there were people willing to listen, and we aspire to do that. Like I said, we'll be in Canada next year for sure. And then it's a top priority goal of ours to get out of North America by 2027 and over to Europe. And, we're already speaking with people that are working on making that happen for us. But at the same time, our debut record comes out Friday, but we've been lucky to, pull off a lot of stuff without having that big kind of what a lot of other bands need to do that kind of move. So, yeah, I think we'll absolutely be in Europe by 2027. And, it's bucket list for me to get over to Australia and Japan and just, that's what we want to do, is just travel the world and play music.
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of bands want to do, is just like travel the world and just play music.
And really what a lot of bands miss out on is like, you sit around and wait for the opportunity, and that's not really how it works. You have to hunt it down and look for it. You know, we haven't gotten anywhere by sitting back and waiting for people to give us the chance. You know, it's everybody that we've worked with and toured with, it's something that we've pursued. And I think that's like a lot of bands think that you have to sit around and wait for these opportunities to be like, you have to earn them. And it's like, really, it goes so far to just ask, you know, like we've had some really cool moments. Like we had Carl Legel from Corrosion of Conformity come up and sing a Rush cover with us. And that was in their hometown of Raleigh and stuff. And like the local bands there were like freaking out that Carl was there and stuff. And it's like, everybody's just a person, you know, and most of us in this scene are like pretty cool people. So if you just reach out to somebody and talk to them, like, you know, ask to go on tour with them, ask the booking agent if they can book your tour, ask the booking agent if they can help you get over to you. You know, that's all stuff that, you know, to do anything, it's what we've had to do. And those are the bands that get opportunities are the bands that hunt them down for sure.
Yeah. It's sort of like got to do a bit of hustling to
yeah. And you will be told no, you know, dozens of times. It's like I've heard like actors going to audition for a role. It's like you don't get 9 out of 10 of them. You only get that one audition out of 10, but you know, you don't land any roles if you don't show up and audition. Yeah. You got to do that hustle. You got to show up. You got to ask. Even though you might get knocked back a good few times, but if you still still hungry for it, you go for it. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for that, Jesse. Let me see. I've just seen a comment from Jesse. She says, there is so much to see in Australia. Oh, I believe it. I want to hold a koala so bad. I love just I love nature and animals and stuff. I'm always like looking up crazy nature facts, and Australia, as the whole rest of the world knows, is like loaded with the craziest animals. And you know, yeah, I want to get over there so bad. Yeah, same here. But it's like you got the most craziest animals over there. Like you've got the 9 of the 10 most deadliest snakes. Right. Spiders that just jump down on you. I was just like, what the hell? Oh, I know, and I'm terrified of spiders. The things that I'm scared of, it makes no sense that I want to go to Australia so bad, but I want to, you know, face your fears or something, I guess. Yeah. It just looks so beautiful. Over there. Yeah, it is. I would love to get over there. I would love to get up to Australia at some point. Yeah. So, right. Where are we? Where can people find you on social media so they can basically keep up to date? Yep. So we have an official website, which is psychedelicblackmooncult.com. And that'll link you to all of our social medias, but we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, like all the major ones, we're on them. And we have a YouTube channel as well. We don't post as much there, just kind of like some live content and stuff. But Facebook is the one we're most active on, followed by Instagram. Cool. I know the record label's got a Bandcamp page, but does the band have a Bandcamp page? We don't at the moment. The label asked that like they're the only ones selling the vinyl up through pre-sale. So once the album actually comes out this Friday, well, right now, since we're going on this West Coast tour for most of the month of September, we didn't really want to deal with a lot of the shipping and stuff. So we're just letting the label handle all of that right now. But by October, we're going to have our own Bandcamp and we'll be, you know, home to ship stuff out to people the rest of the year.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I was going to say that usually, yeah, because I know for a fact that I know there's a lot of people out there who will sort of like support bands with the, especially with the Bandcamp page where they can actually buy merchandise, CDs, stuff like that.
Yep. Our label, we get compensated very fairly through everything that sells through the label and stuff. So that I definitely there we have no problems encouraging people to go and buy from the label. Tommy, if you've ever heard, have you know the 80s thrash band Hallows Eve?
Sorry?
Do you know the 80s thrash band Hallows Eve?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the owner of Black Doomba Records is Tommy Stewart, who played bass in that, but he was the kind of the leader of Hallows Eve. So any Hallows Eve fans and stuff, go support Black Doomba Records and stuff. If you buy something from them, that's who's going to be sending it to you, and he usually writes you a cool note and everything like that. We're so stoked with the label we're working with, and I know a lot of bands aren't stoked on labels these days, but we are super happy with the team we've got at Black Doomba.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. I know Black Doomba. I've been following the label for quite a while now. Especially over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's got a lot of camaraderie on the label too. Like all the bands that are signed to it, like most of us that tour, we all play with each other when we go on tour. So like Thunderbird Divines in Philadelphia, Grave Next Doors up by Grand Rapids, Michigan. Megaton Communion is in just a little bit south of us here in Ohio. And as we all play together all the time if we're going through each other's areas, and we're all good friends and help kind of promote each other's stuff. And that's the kind of label we wanted to work at, you know.
Cool. So, guys in the chat, if you've got any more questions, please ask away. We're going to be starting to wrap things up in the next 5-10 minutes or so. So if you've got any more final questions, please ask away. Have you got any advice for people who want to become a musician, whether for like sort of like the personal sort of like pleasure or sort of like wanting to go down the commercial route?
Let me think. When I've been at so someone wanting to start playing guitar, for example, I'll go that route. Don't buy like the cheapest guitar that you can get. You know, I've been at guitar stores many times, and you see like the 8 to 10-year-old kid walking in, and they're looking for their first guitar, and you see the Guitar Center employees pushing them towards like the really cheap 3/4 Squires and stuff like that. And then so many kids will get those, and they're trying to learn to play, but nothing sounds good on those guitars because they're made so poorly and stuff. So if you want to get into music, I would recommend investing at least $200 to $300 in something like one of the more high-end Squires or like an Epiphone or something like that. Because if you have a shitty guitar, you know, like great seasoned players can take the cheapest guitar around and make it sound decent. But when you're just starting to learn how to play, you might not be able to make the cheap guitar sound decent. But if you get a decent guitar and you play something, it's like you need an instrument that's going to inspire you and make you want to play, you know, and a bad sounding guitar doesn't make you want to play. So that's one thing I'd recommend. And then if you're starting a band and looking to get into like gigging and stuff, it's kind of like what I hit on earlier, is just like hunt down every opportunity you can find, you know, and like really go after it. If you want to play that local venue and they're not answering your emails and stuff, like show up at the venue, actually make a phone call. You know, no one makes phone calls anymore. And a phone call goes a long way. And it's just, you know, be relentless in your pursuits.
Yeah, sound advice there. Sound advice. So we're going to be wrapping things up now. Have you got any final words before we leave? Before we sign off?
Yeah, Ophidian Future, The Children of Yig is out this Friday, September 5th on Black Doomba Records. And anybody over in Europe or abroad, I hope we can get there and play for you guys soon.
Yeah. We would love to see you live in either in Canada, Australia, UK, Europe, anywhere you could, anywhere you can actually get to.
Oh yeah, like I said, it's a big priority for us, so count on it.
Yeah. So guys, if you haven't checked out Black Moon Cult, please check them out. I've put the links down in the description there, so please go check them out. You won't be disappointed. You literally won't be disappointed. And don't forget, the new album is out Friday. So until next time, guys, we'll catch you all later.
Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure.
Later, everybody.